Hello again. When they had an empire, the British had an excellent way of maintaining control over other people's countries and stopping them from rising up and turfing the British forces out of their territory. After all, a handful of British troops and colonial authorities managed to keep control over millions of people. How was that possible? It was actually very easy. It was called divide and rule, and it consisted of setting one community against another and encouraging them to be at each other's throats so that they would not unite and all turn on the British administration. In Cyprus, for example, the British were menaced by the Greek guerrillas of Aoka and so recruited Turkish Muslims into the police and used them to encourage communal strife, so that Greek was fighting Turk. In Kenya, the British employed the Maasai tribesmen and made sure that they were fighting to dominate the Kikuyu. In Palestine, they used Arabs against Jews, and so on. In this way, the British could not only ensure that the people they governed were too busy fighting each other to have time to plot a popular uprising against them, but they could also pretend to be trying desperately to prevent intercommunal violence. In other words, they were playing the role of peacekeepers. It was a brilliant strategy. I cannot help but wonder if something of the kind is not happening now in this country, and that it has been decided that having various communities sniping at each other will mean that all anger and energy is directed at fellow citizens rather than towards the government itself. Muslims skirmish with Hindus and Jews, white working class people dislike Muslims, Caribbeans have contempt for Africans, and vice versa. Many black people feel they're being cheated and exploited by those from the Indian subcontinent. Since becoming a pluralist society with various different ethnic groups with different languages and religions, communal friction has increased massively. Just as there were efforts during the days of the empire to get different groups to join the police and suppress other communities, we see that the man in charge today of the Metropolitan Police operation to patrol the largely Muslim protest march through central London is a Nigerian Christian, Assistant Commissioner Ade Larkin. I've noticed very often lately that a senior police officer of some ethnic group different to that being policed always seems to be produced. It does put me in mind of the Turkish police officers being used against the Greeks in Cyprus and the Arabs in the Palestine police who work for the British against Jewish settlers. It strikes me that as I watch the gradual balkanisation of this country into areas which are almost exclusively Muslim, like some towns in Yorkshire, and districts in London which are mainly black, that the tension between those different communities cannot help but make it easier to rule the country. Each group has abandoned any idea of working towards the common good. There's no question really of patriotism and loyalty to the country. Instead, they all focus exclusively on what will benefit their own people. Hardly anybody even seems to notice that the whole country being run by a bunch of psychopathic and conscienceless scoundrels who don't care a fig for us and our interests. Nor do many people seem to realise that Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer are good pals in private and both subscribe ultimately to exactly the same policies and beliefs. Everybody's too busy squabbling with their neighbours to care about the bigger picture.